On Christmas, my mom called begging for emergency money, claiming my dad collapsed or he wouldn't make it. I sent her my wedding savings. Later, my brother posted honeymoon photos. So I exposed the lie, got married without them, took my money back, and moved away. Hey Reddit! My parents lied, stole my wedding fund, and handed it to my brother. So I cut them off, got married without them, and rebuilt my life. But before all hell broke loose, here's how it actually started. My name's Patrick, I'm 28, and I work in IT. Nothing exciting. I'm the kind of guy who budgets everything, avoids stupid risks, and just tries to keep life steady. I've been with my half-Japanese, half-American girlfriend, now wife, Azami, for almost 6 years. She works remotely in design and is way more observant than I am. We'd been planning a small but meaningful wedding for months, and I'd already saved most of what we needed. Deposits were down, dates were lined up, and we were finally at the point where things felt like they were moving forward. My family was always uneven. My dad, Edward, isn't the warm type. He's more of a show up when it benefits him kind of guy. My mom, Eden, is the opposite. Loud, emotional, guilt-heavy, and somehow always the victim no matter the situation. And then there's my younger brother, Brody, who's 24 and has lived his entire life as the one who gets rescued. Bad grades? Someone else's fault. Job problems? Someone else sabotaged him. Bills due? My parents help. Always. A few months earlier, Brody rushed into a wedding with a girl he'd been dating for maybe a year and a half. Nothing wrong with that. Just sudden. My parents went all in, though. They paid for the whole thing. Venue, catering, rings, outfits. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. I just figured it was their money and their choice. Early December, everything shifted. I was working late when my phone buzzed. Eden. Her voice was loud and shaky right away. Patrick, your father collapsed yesterday. It's his diabetes. It's bad this time. I sat up instantly. What happened? She talked fast, almost tripping over her words. Something about blood sugar dropping. Him needing a specific medication that wasn't available here. Something about treatment delays, and how everything was extremely time-sensitive. Her voice hit every panic button possible. I tried to ask where he was being treated, but she brushed past it. We're back home now, but we're still dealing with the doctor and the pharmacy. We don't have time to go through everything. This is time-sensitive. Then she put Edward on the phone. His voice sounded tired, but not like someone who'd just collapsed. More like he'd been woken up from a nap. Hey, son, your mom's handling everything. Just help us out, okay? Then he coughed weakly, said something about needing to rest, and the call went back to Eden. Patrick, this isn't the moment to be questioning us. We need $15,000 right now. We'll pay you back later. You know we wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. It was the pressure more than anything. The timing, the holidays coming up, the idea of my dad actually being in danger. Azami had been sitting at the kitchen table working, and she looked over with a worried expression. She mouthed, "What's going on?" But I didn't answer. Eden kept talking. If we had the money right now, we wouldn't be calling you. You know that. Just transfer it, and we'll figure it out later. The thing is, December is the worst time for this kind of call. Everything already feels more emotional. You're stretched thin, time moves faster, and you don't want to imagine someone in your family ending the year in a hospital bed. I felt cornered. I don't know how else to describe it. I told her I'd send it. She calmed instantly. Yes, good. Do it now. I'll text you the account. She hung up without asking any other questions. Azami walked over slowly. Is he okay? What happened? They need money, I said. Some medication she claims they can't get here. And she looked worried but skeptical. Did they show you anything? Or tell you where he is? No, I said, and I felt stupid even admitting it. She said they don't have time. Azami didn't push further. She just said, okay, if it's serious, help them, but make sure you check on him. I stared at the transfer screen for a long minute before I finally sent the money. It was a huge chunk of my wedding savings. A minute later, Eden texted, got it. We'll handle things from here. No thank you. Azami sat next to me while I looked at the transaction confirmation. She put a hand on my shoulder, but I couldn't relax. Something already felt off, but I didn't want to be the guy who doubts his own mother in a supposed medical emergency. I tried telling myself it was temporary, that they'd pay it back, that family emergencies happen and this was just bad luck. But the longer I stared at my bank balance, the more that sinking feeling spread across my chest. But even then, something deep down told me this wasn't the whole truth. I drove over to my parents' place the next morning. If Edward had really collapsed, I expected discharge paperwork on the counter, a pharmacy bag, A glucose monitor, something that proved yesterday happened. Instead, I walked in and found him sitting in the recliner with a blanket over his lap, watching some hunting show and complaining about the cold. Didn't know collapsing comes with cable, I said. He glanced over like I'd interrupted a national broadcast. Doctors said rest. Yeah? Which doctors? I asked. He shifted, eyes flicking to the kitchen where Eden was banging pans around. Your mother knows the details. Right, I said. Because that sounds legit. I went into the kitchen. Eden didn't turn around. She just said, "Don't start, Patrick, not today." I didn't start anything, I said. You did when you called asking for $15,000. Figured the least I'd get is an update. She slammed a pot down harder than necessary. Your father is recovering. You should be grateful. Grateful for what? I asked. That he's alive? Or that he looks suspiciously healthy for someone who supposedly needed emergency imported medication? She spun around, defensive already. Don't twist my words. I'm not, I said. But you're avoiding mine. She exhaled dramatically, the kind of sigh meant to make me feel like I was the problem. We don't have paperwork yet. The doctor gave verbal instructions. Doctors love doing that, I said. Saves them the trouble of being credible. Her eyes narrowed. Patrick, I'm not in the mood for your sarcasm. Then stop giving me reasons to use it. She stood there like she was waiting for me to back down. I didn't. After a few seconds, she flicked her hand toward the living room. Go sit with your father. He needs positive energy. A miracle cure right there, I said. Positive vibes instead of insulin. She glared. I walked away. I went back 2 more times that week. Each time, the story changed slightly. The doctor's name changed. The price changed. The reason for the urgent import changed. Edward kept acting like he was just dealing with a mild cold. Azami came with me on the 3rd visit. She didn't say much, but she watched everything. She noticed how Eden hovered whenever I asked a direct question. How Edward avoided eye contact whenever anything medical came up. How the house looked exactly the same. No receipts, no pill bottles, no follow-up paperwork. On the ride home, she finally said, "This doesn't add up." No kidding, I said. She tapped her fingers against her leg. Your mom looked annoyed I was even there. Yeah, she gets like that whenever someone logical enters the room. Azami didn't laugh. Patrick, you need answers. I'll get them, I said. Just not from the 2 people auditioning for Worst Liars of the Year. By the 4th visit, I'd noticed something else. Brody hadn't shown up once. Not even to check on Edward or pretend to care. So during my next visit, I asked casually, has Brody been by? Eden looked offended I'd even ask. Your brother is under a lot of stress. We don't want to burden him. Right, I said. Wouldn't want him to interrupt his busy schedule of doing nothing. She clutched her chest. Patrick, he's still finding himself. Tell him to check Lost and Found. Stop it, she snapped. He's going through a rough patch, and your father and I don't want him worried before the holidays. And I'm the designated worrier? I asked. Cool. Good to know where I stand. She scowled. Don't talk like that. Then stop feeding me garbage, I said. If Dad really collapsed, Brody should know. If he doesn't know, then it wasn't serious. Which one is it? Edward muttered from the living room. Patrick, don't start trouble. I walked over. I didn't start anything. I'm just trying to figure out why I paid for a miracle drug nobody seems to remember the name of. He looked at the TV again. Your mother handled it. Yeah, and she handled the truth like it was radioactive. Eden stomped in. We don't owe you explanations for everything. You do when you take $15,000, I said. Unless that's changed since last week. Silence. I let it sit. Eden looked ready to burst into tears or flames. Hard to tell which. Patrick, you are being very ungrateful. For what? Asking basic questions? For doubting us. Then stop giving me reasons to. She stormed off, muttering something about how I ruin holidays. I nodded goodbye, not out of respect, but because they didn't deserve more than that. Azami and I got back into the car. Calling him now? She asked. Yeah, I said. Time to see what planet he's on. Brody answered on the 2nd ring, sounding way too cheerful. Yo, Pat! Bad timing, dude. It's freezing out here. There was loud wind behind him, the kind you only hear near mountains or open snowfields. Where exactly are you? I asked. Oh, we're in Norway, man. Northern lights, snowmobiles, this place is insane. We're doing a sky lodge tonight. I kept my voice even. Nice. Didn't know you were traveling. Yeah, Mom and Dad totally hooked us up, he said. They said the last payment was due and they finally had the cash to lock it in. Honestly, I didn't think they'd go this big. I didn't respond. Brody kept going. You should see these prices, dude. Everything's wild expensive. But whatever. Once in a lifetime, right? The wind roared again. He was clearly outdoors, wrapped up in winter gear somewhere in the Arctic, while my parents were pretending they couldn't afford oxygen. All right, I said. Enjoy your trip. He didn't notice anything off. Thanks, man. I hung up. Azami was already staring at me. Norway? Yep. For Northern Lights? She asked. Yep. And your parents paid for it? Apparently they hit the jackpot the exact same day they begged me for 15 grand. She shook her head slowly, processing. Okay, let's go through this properly. What I didn't know then was that the Norway trip wasn't some spontaneous idea. It was already booked. They just didn't have the final payment, and I was the fastest ATM they could guilt into covering it. We pulled into our driveway, went inside, and sat at the table. Azami opened her laptop and brought up Norway travel costs. She clicked through prices fast, her expression becoming flatter each second. Patrick, these numbers line up exactly with what you sent them, she said. Flight packages, lodge stays, tours. This trip isn't cheap. Your parents didn't just help them. They funded everything. I leaned back. So we agree there was no collapse, no emergency, and no miracle drug. Obviously, she said. They lied to you with zero hesitation. Good, I said. Makes my next move easier. Azami looked at me. Are you going back there? Yeah, I said. This time, I'm not letting them talk in circles. We drove back to my parents' place. I walked in without knocking. Eden was on the couch scrolling through her phone. Edward was pretending to nap. I shut the door behind me. Let's skip the warm-up. We're doing honesty today. Eden looked up, instantly annoyed. Patrick, we're tired. This isn't a good... How's Norway this time of year? I asked casually. She blinked. What? Norway. Brody says it's beautiful. Expensive, too. Must be nice having parents who can fund a dream honeymoon while pretending to be broke. Edward opened one eye, then closed it again like he hoped disappearing would help. Eden forced a weak laugh. You misunderstood him. Did I? I said. Maybe the howling Arctic wind in the background confused me. Her face tightened. Patrick, don't twist things. I'm not twisting anything, I said. I just want to hear the story again. Preferably the same version twice. Edward rubbed his forehead. Son, we're under a lot of stress. Save it, I said. You lied, badly. The least you can do is commit to one narrative. Eden stood up fast. We were overwhelmed. You don't understand real pressure. Really? I asked. I think sending 15 grand with zero explanation qualifies. You're being cruel, she said. No, I said. Cruel would be pretending I believe any of this. She sputtered, eyes darting around for a new angle. Your brother was struggling. He needed this trip. He was depressed. Depressed, I repeated, yet energetic enough to scream into the phone from a snowstorm. She pointed a trembling finger at me. Don't mock him. Then stop using fake illnesses to justify theft. Her jaw clenched so hard I heard it. Edward finally spoke. Look, son, we didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, I said. You just picked the one that benefited Brody. Eden's voice rose. You're stronger than him. You have a good job. You're stable. We knew you'd be fine without the money. Oh, good, I said. I'm glad you ran a moral calculation before lying. You owe us, she snapped. After everything we did for you growing up. There it is, I said. The greatest hit. Right on schedule. She froze, thrown off that I wasn't reacting emotionally. I stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to repay the 15 grand before my wedding. Eden blinked. We can't do that. We don't have that kind of money right now. That's odd, I said. You had it last week when Brody needed a Scandinavian postcard. She flushed red. How dare you talk to me like this? Try being honest, I said. It's easier. Edward shook his head. Patrick, you're making this worse than it is. Tell you what, I said. You two take responsibility, repay the money, and this ends cleanly. Eden threw her hands up. We won't be bullied in our own home. You lied to my face, I said. Calling me decisive isn't bullying. You're choosing money over family, she shouted. No, I said calmly. I'm choosing self-respect over stupidity. That hit harder than I expected. Eden's face twisted like I'd stabbed her ego directly. She launched into a frantic monologue about loyalty, tradition, sacrifices she'd supposedly made, how ungrateful I was, how Brody needed joy in his life, how I was too cold, too logical, too demanding. Her voice got shriller with every sentence, like she was trying to drown out reality by increasing volume. When she ran out of theatrics, I said, Are you done? She stared, breathing hard. Good, I said. Repay the money before my wedding. That's the deal. Edward swallowed. We can't. Then this conversation is over, I said. Eden's voice cracked. Patrick, don't walk away from your family. I'm walking away from clowns, I said. Not family. Her mouth dropped open. I turned, opened the door, and stepped out without raising my voice once. Azami followed me, calm as ever. As we walked to the car, I didn't feel guilt, just clarity. When Azami and I got home after that last confrontation, we didn't even need a discussion. I said, "They're not invited." She nodded once. Obviously. The money I sent them gutted my wedding savings, but the major deposits were already paid. Azami covered the few remaining costs from her own account, and we stripped the plan down to the simplest version that still felt like us. The only thing left was choosing how small we wanted to scale this. We agreed on immediate relatives we actually respected: my aunt, a couple cousins, and Martin, my grandfather. Azami's parents joined through a live stream because traveling in December wasn't easy for them. No drama there, just support. Azami handled the logistics with her usual precision, rented a small hall by the lake, arranged a simple dinner, set up a live stream station for her family. I handled boundaries, meaning I didn't tell my parents a single thing. No heads up, no olive branch, nothing. They lost the right to information the second they decided lying was their hobby. When I called Martin to invite him, he didn't even hesitate. "I'll be there," he said. "And Patrick? Good job cutting them out. Should have happened years ago." "Thanks," I said. "You think I don't know what Eden's like?" he continued. "I've watched that woman twist you into knots since you were a kid. I'm glad you finally snapped the rope." "About time, right?" I said. "Long overdue," he replied. The day before the ceremony, Azami double-checked every detail. She wasn't stressed. She was steady, efficient, exactly the kind of partner who made everything easier. Meanwhile, I focused on ensuring not a single trace of wedding talk leaked anywhere near my parents' ears. Blocking information was easy. They didn't know how to behave online without causing scenes. The wedding was held on December 23rd. Snow everywhere, quiet, just enough cold to make everything crisp without ruining anything. My aunt cried the second she saw us. My cousins kept praising Azami's dress. Martin shook my hand like he was congratulating me on winning a championship. "Proud of you, son," he said. "You picked the right woman and left the wrong people out." "Trying to keep the guest list smart," I said. He chuckled. "Smartest thing you've done in years." The ceremony was simple. Rings, vows, nothing fancy. Just calm, real happiness. Azami's family appeared on the screen, smiling through the live stream. Afterward, we had dinner. Nothing extravagant, but everything felt genuine. No guilt, no manipulation, no fake emergencies. Just people who cared about us. It was the first time in a long time I felt completely relaxed. By evening, everyone posted photos, group shots, couple shots, pictures with the snow, pictures with Martin. It wasn't planned. They just genuinely wanted to share the moment. Then the meltdown began. My phone buzzed once, then nonstop. My mother: "How could you do this to us? You got married without your family? Is this a joke?" Then voice notes. Her crying, shouting, gasping like I'd staged a betrayal on national TV. Then my father joined. "Call us immediately. This is unacceptable." Then more from my mother in rapid fire. "Fix this. You ruined everything. I can't believe you hid this from us. She is destroying our family. You owe us an explanation." Azami read over my shoulder. "Wow, she writes like she's auditioning for a drama series." "Yeah," I said. "She missed her calling." Another voice note came in. Eden screaming my name, fake crying, demanding I come home so we can talk like a family. Then another message. "I'm coming over if you don't answer." I blocked the number. Then Eden used my father's phone. "If you block us, it proves she's controlling you. This marriage is a mistake. You'll regret cutting us out." Blocked that too. Azami rested her chin on my shoulder. "They're really hitting all the cliches." "They practiced," I said. She smiled. "At least you finally shut the door." "Yeah," I said. "And I'm not reopening it." We muted our phones and went back to enjoying what was left of the night. The hall lights were dimmed, soft music playing from the speakers. We danced alone on the wooden floor while the snow fell outside, our first quiet moment as a married couple. And somewhere across town, my parents were losing their minds over something they were never owed in the first place. 3 days after the wedding, right between Christmas and New Year, my phone buzzed with a call from Martin. Not angry, not confused, just calm. "Patrick," he said, "I'd like to see you and Azami. No rush, but before the year ends." He didn't mention the photos or the screaming meltdown my parents had online. He just asked nicely. That alone already put him on a different level than the people who raised me. "Sure," I said. "We'll come by tonight." Azami and I drove to his house. He had a small place with old leather furniture and a fireplace that always smelled like cedar. When we sat down, he poured tea and took a moment before speaking. I noticed, he said. Your parents weren't at the wedding. I'm not making assumptions, but I'd like to know what happened. Azami gave me a small nod. So I told him everything. Not dramatically, not emotionally, just facts. The collapse, the fake emergency, the $15,000, the Norway honeymoon, the lies, the guilt trips, the meltdown after the wedding photos. All of it. Martin didn't interrupt once. His jaw tightened, though. You could see the restraint. When I finished, he leaned back. I knew your mother was a handful, he said. But this is another level. She crossed every line there is, I said. And she's still digging. Azami opened a folder on her tablet. Screenshots, notes, timelines, cost comparisons. Everything organized. She slid it toward him. These are their inconsistencies, she said. They contradicted themselves at least 12 times in 1 week. Martin nodded approvingly. Good. Keep everything documented. I'm planning to go the legal route, I said. I'm done playing nice. He rubbed his chin. Before you do that, give me a chance to talk to them. They're my son and daughter-in-law. Even if they act like children, I want to see if there's any sense left in them. Azami looked at me. I shrugged. If you want to try, go ahead. Just don't expect much. I'm not expecting anything, he said. I just want to make sure they can't say nobody warned them. The next day, Martin went to see them. He didn't tell them why he was coming, which meant Eden assumed it was a friendly visit. Big mistake. As Martin told me later, the moment he asked about the money, Eden exploded. She screamed that I was lying. She screamed that Azami had brainwashed me. She screamed that I was ungrateful and cruel, and not the son she raised. When Martin repeated my explanation, she switched to crying instantly, claiming she was a victim of stress, exhaustion, and family betrayal. She said the wedding photos ruined her Christmas because everyone online was asking why she wasn't there. Then she blamed Azami again. Martin asked her, point blank, "Did you or did you not lie to Patrick about Edward collapsing?" She dodged, then denied, then claimed she exaggerated for emotional reasons, then said I should have known she was exaggerating, then said it wasn't lying if she intended good things. Martin told me her voice cracked when he said, "You stole $15,000. She shrieked that it wasn't stealing because parents can take from their children if needed. Then Edward jumped in, blaming me, saying I overreacted, that I made things worse by interrogating them, and that Brody needed support during a difficult time. Martin kept his composure through all of it. He didn't shout, didn't insult, didn't budge. He simply said, "You expect Patrick to suffer so Brody can have fun. That's not parenting." Eden switched from crying to angry in half a second. "Patrick owes us. We raised him. He wouldn't have anything without us." "Well," Martin said, "he certainly wouldn't have this problem without you." She called him disrespectful. Edward sulked like a child told to put away his toys. They refused to repay a cent. When Martin stood up to leave, Eden shouted, "If Patrick sues us, he'll regret it." Martin didn't bother responding. He called me the moment he got home. His voice was steady. "Do what you need to do, Patrick. They're gone. There's no saving them." I nodded even though he couldn't see it. "Thanks for trying. I'm proud of you," he said. "You've shown more restraint than they deserve." After we hung up, I opened my laptop. Azami sat beside me and reviewed every detail while I drafted the official repayment demand. Dates, amounts, deadline, evidence, cold, professional, unemotional. We emailed it and mailed a certified copy. 10 minutes later, Eden came in through a new number. And after that, there were more. "How dare you threaten your own mother legally? This is emotional abuse. We did nothing wrong." Another message. "You will regret this. I swear on my life you will regret it." Then voice notes. Her screaming, crying, ranting, babbling, shrieking accusations at Azami, claiming we were destroying the family, claiming I was dead to her unless I begged for forgiveness. Azami muted the phone. "She's really losing her grip. She lost it years ago," I said. "Now we're just seeing the highlight reel." And while Eden spiraled through every alternate number she could find, I didn't respond once. Not a word. Not a reaction. The legal fuse was lit, and there was no turning it off now. Early January hit, and the repayment demand finally cracked whatever confidence my parents had left. The tone of their messages shifted fast. Still dramatic, still unhinged, but now tinted with panic. Even through the new numbers they used to get around my blocks, the fear was obvious. "Don't drag us into court. We'll start paying soon." And they did. Barely. Small transfers. Pathetic good faith amounts. But they were moving money, which meant they understood the problem wasn't emotional anymore. It was legal. Azami kept track of every payment in a spreadsheet. They're trying to buy time, she said. But the pressure's working. Good, I said. Let them sweat. Meanwhile, Martin didn't keep quiet. He told a few relatives exactly why he was supporting me, and once the truth circulated, Eden's reputation took a nosedive. My aunt called me laughing. She told everyone you were brainwashed, she said, but Martin shut her right up at dinner. Said she lied, stole, and embarrassed the family. Accurate summary, I said. Everyone's on your side, she added, except your parents. Yeah, well, I said. I collect supporters with brains. Brody returned from Norway a few days later. I knew he was back because one of his dramatic Instagram stories appeared. Him posing in a parka beside some fjord, captioned, back home but still vibing. I figured he'd stay quiet, but that required self-awareness, which he's allergic to. He showed up at my house uninvited, knocking like a cop. Azami peeked through the window. It's him. Perfect, I said. Let's see if he rehearsed his lines. I opened the door, and there he stood, tan from vacation, wearing an expensive jacket, acting like I'd personally ruined his life. We need to talk, he said, pushing his way inside. No, you need to talk, I said. I'm good. He ignored that. Mom told me what you're doing. This legal crap? You're out of line, man. I laughed. Interesting. Did she mention the part where the money came from me? Not the tooth fairy? His eyebrows pulled together. They said you're blowing this out of proportion. Brody, I said, your honeymoon was funded by a fake medical emergency. You traveled across the Arctic on money stolen from me. Stolen? He scoffed. Oh, come on. They're our parents. They help us. That's what family does. Family doesn't scam each other, I said. And they didn't help you. I did. Indirectly. Against my will. He crossed his arms. Well, I didn't ask them to take it from you. No, you just happily accepted the cash without wondering why people living on fixed incomes were suddenly dropping tens of thousands on your dream trip. He frowned, uncomfortable for the first time. They told me they had savings. They told me Dad collapsed, I said. See the difference? His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. You didn't have to make this into a huge thing. It's just money. I smiled. Cold. Yeah, my money. You're acting selfish, he snapped. Selfish, I repeated. You burned 15 grand sledding through Norway like a tourist in a commercial, and I'm selfish? He looked away. You're twisting everything. I'm listing facts, I said. You confuse the two because you've gone your entire life without consequences. That's not fair? No, I cut in. What's not fair is you being 30 steps behind everyone mentally and still acting superior. What's not fair is Mom and Dad draining me to give you another toy. And what's not fair is you pretending you didn't know something was off. He puffed up. I didn't know. Azami spoke quietly from the couch. You didn't ask. That's the issue. Brody turned red. I stepped closer. Here's the reality. You're not the victim. You're not the hero. You're just the guy who keeps getting rescued because everyone around you lets you skate by. Not me. Not anymore. He stammered, losing steam. You're ruining the family. No, I said. I'm rebuilding the part worth keeping. He glared at me, then at Azami, then stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. Azami raised an eyebrow. Well, that went exactly how I expected. Honestly, I said, he lasted longer than I predicted. The next weekend, Martin hosted a small family dinner. Eden tried to twist the narrative again, claiming I attacked Brody, threatened them, and destroyed the holiday. Martin shut her down instantly. He said, Patrick is doing the right thing. You two created this mess. You lied, you manipulated, and you wasted his generosity on your favorite child. Stop blaming him for your own behavior. My aunt clapped, apparently. Eden cried. Edward sulked. Brody looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. The room sided with Martin, and that was the end of their little fantasy storyline. They couldn't spin it anymore. They were exposed. Back at home, payments from my parents continued. Slow, reluctant, quiet. They weren't doing it out of love. They were doing it because the alternative was court. And for the first time in their lives, they realized I wasn't bluffing. Azami updated the spreadsheet and handed me her tablet. At this pace, they'll finish within a few weeks. Good, I said. And then we're done. She smiled. Completely? Completely, I said. By mid-January, the legal pressure finished what little backbone my parents had left. Their messages shifted from dramatic threats to quiet fear. They finally understood that a courtroom wasn't a stage where they could scream until everybody clapped. Small transfers started appearing. Tiny at first, then larger, then consistent. Azami tracked each one on her spreadsheet, color-coding them by week. She handled the numbers like a surgeon. I handled the silence. One morning, she walked into the living room holding her tablet. It's in, she said. The last payment? All 15,000. Cleared. She handed me the tablet. I looked at the confirmation screen. Clean. Final. No missing amounts, no pending charges. Just closure. Good, I said. Azami smiled. Want me to archive the whole folder? Yeah, bury it deep. She tapped a few times. Done. I blocked every number my parents used. Old ones, new ones, burner accounts, everything they'd tried to slip messages through. Then I blocked Brody, then the relatives who regularly acted as my parents' messengers. I didn't block my aunt or my cousins. They'd supported me the whole way through, but I turned off message notifications from them for now, just until the move was done. They still talked to my parents occasionally, and I wasn't giving Eden any possible route to dig into my new address or worm her way back in. Martin was the only person I kept fully unblocked. Martin was the only one my mother couldn't guilt, manipulate, or break down for information. He didn't fold. He didn't repeat nonsense. He didn't even entertain drama. He was the only relative who stayed steady no matter how loud Eden got. So he stayed. Everyone else, muted or blocked, clean lines, no leaks. When I finished, I put the phone down. Done. Azami nodded like she'd been waiting years to hear that one word. She leaned over. So? Moving soon? Now that the money's back? I said. Absolutely. We'd been planning the move for weeks. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere my parents couldn't show up screaming on the porch. A small town 3 hours away, near trees and normal people. No emotional landmines. But the universe wasn't done testing my patience. The day before we were set to leave, there was a knock on the door. Not a normal knock. 3 fast hits, then silence. I opened it, already guessing the identity. Brody. No Parker this time. No smug vacation glow. He looked nervous, hands shoved into his jacket pockets. We need to talk, he said. No, I replied. You need to talk. I'll listen for entertainment. He swallowed. I'm here to apologize. Azami stayed in the hallway, arms crossed, watching quietly. I raised an eyebrow. For which part? The vacation I funded or the attitude that came with it? He winced. I didn't know they lied to you, I swear. You didn't ask, I said. Big difference. He stared at the floor. I thought, they told me everything was fine, that they had money saved up. Right, I said, because nothing screams financial stability, like living off retirement checks and begging me for cash. He rubbed his face. Look, man, I didn't mean for all this to happen. You never mean for anything to happen, I answered. It just magically happens around you while you float through life. He looked up, offended for half a second, then deflated. I'm trying, okay? No, I said. You're apologizing because mom and dad told you to, or because you realized you look terrible to the rest of the family now. His silence was confirmation. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. Let's keep this simple. I don't hate you. I'm not angry at you. But I also don't owe you a relationship. He blinked. So that's it? That's it, I said. You benefited from a lie. You didn't question it. And when I asked you to take responsibility, you threw attitude instead of truth. He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, then shut it again. Can we start fresh? I shook my head. Starting fresh requires effort. Actual effort. Not a 5-minute driveway apology before you drive home and call it personal growth. He looked crushed, but I stayed steady. Go home, Brody, I said. Figure yourself out. Maybe someday you can come back. Not as the guy who expects to be rescued, but as a man. He just nodded once, stepped back, and left without another word. When I walked inside, Azami gave me a small smile. Handled that well. He needed honesty, I said. Not comfort. She nodded. And you gave him exactly that. The next morning, Martin arrived to help with the move. He didn't mention my parents, and I didn't volunteer anything. He lifted boxes with surprising strength for a man his age. You ready? He asked once the truck was packed. More than ready, I said. He shook my hand firmly. You're building something better. I'm proud of you. Thanks, I said. For everything. He nodded once and stepped back. No guilt, no speeches, just respect. Azami and I got in the car. The drive to the new town was quiet. Just open road and cold winter light. No buzzing phone, no frantic messages from unhinged parents, no drama. Just calm. We reached the new house by afternoon. 2 bedrooms, a backyard, a porch facing the woods. Not a palace, but it felt like a new page. We unloaded what we needed immediately and ordered dinner. After we ate, Azami sat cross-legged on the living room rug, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. Feels different, she said. It feels like ours, I said. I walked to the front door, opened it, stepped out for a second, then came back inside and shut it. The lock clicked with finality. Last door they'll ever be behind, I said. Azami smiled. Good. We sat together on the couch, the warm light filling the room. No shouting parents. No guilt trips, no frantic calls, no manipulation, just us. And that was enough. So, Aida for cutting my parents off completely after they lied about a medical emergency, stole my wedding savings, funded my brother's dream vacation, manipulated every situation, harassed me, attacked my wife, refused responsibility, and only repaid the money when they feared court? No, not even close. I made the cleanest cut of my life, and for the first time ever, the silence on the other side feels right. I close the door, and I'm not looking back. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.